Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our Week 2 Fantasy Football Waiver Wire pickups. We're here to help you make all the right decisions on who you should be adding to your roster and who you should avoid. Let's start this Fantasy Football podcast right meow.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Justin. That is Kyle. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Week 1 is in the books, Kyle. That was a lot a lot of ups and a lot of downs out there.
A lot of injuries.
Including some devastating injuries and some surprising healthy scratches out there. Maybe have some fantasy owners scratching their heads a little bit here. But every week, we will give you the players you need to target on the waiver wire, which we are going to do today. So we have a rather decent sized list for you guys this week. We're going to try to knock them out for you, give you our highlights for them. We're going to help you find that value in players that others just may overlook. Follow along so you can help you guys win that championship.
Yep.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
All right, guys. So we're just going to be focused on guys who are under the 60% rostered threshold on Yahoo. It's just a metric that we've chosen to, keep it consistent across the season. But generally speaking, they're going to be under that amount. And so they are available in a lot of the leagues that a lot of you are playing in. Hey, click that like button down below. Drop a comment if you can or want to. Or if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and say, hey,
Little help now.
that's right. We will help you out. So we're starting the season off on the right foot after, you've missed a bunch of guys in the draft. Then, the guys that you missed on were on your roster maybe. So we're trying to help you fix that problem. Look, if you drop a question down below on Start Sit as well over the course of the next few days in our Start Sit episodes, we will be able to help out. We had some technical issues last week with our Start Sit episodes. We've got that corrected, we think. And so we handled that a little bit during our Sunday pregame live stream, which was well attended, actually. So if you can, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell down below. That'll let you know when we start our pregame Sunday live stream. And it was pretty exciting. It was a lot of fun, actually.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. You throw comments on the live stream on that, and we were able to answer them then as well. The questions, starts and sits, all that fun stuff, right? So let's dive in head first into the shallow end and get started here on our waiver wire ads, Justin. All right.
Yes,
so I think we'll have you go first here on running back. What do you got?
Yeah, I got Kenneth, also known as Kenny Gainwell, 8% roster right now in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. That's what we usually use, so that's what we're going to go with. But it looks like Gainwell has overtaken the number 2 spot from Boston Scott, and pretty handedly after that Week 1 performance. This kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we were pumping the Kenny Gainwell horn quite a bit here going into the season, but a lot of people said it was going to be a pretty equal split between Boston Scott and Miles Sanders. That did not take place because Kenny Gainwell came out with 9 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown, and also had 2 catches for 6 yards. But his day could have been even better, Kyle, because he actually had a second touchdown that was called back because he's an ineligible man down the field. So could have been even bigger. Oh, those are always the worst.
Yeah.
But head coach Nick Sirianni of the Eagles comes from that Frank Reich system where they like to split workloads for running backs. Kind of think of what Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Marlon Mack have done this last year. So that's very similar where I think that this backfield is going to go when it comes to Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell. So Kenny should be added in all formats and should provide some standalone value as a RB3, possible flex opportunity. But also remember, everybody, Miles Sanders is a guy that has not proven he can stay healthy for an entire season yet. So just something to think about. Put that in the back of your mind whenever you're going ahead and picking this guy up.
Yep.
Write that down.
All right, guys.
What you got?
Yeah, what I got is Elijah Mitchell. He's 8% rostered. He's out in San Fran, right? We talked a lot about Sermon. We liked Sermon, but apparently everybody in fantasy football liked Sermon. The one guy that mattered didn't, and that is our friend Shanahan, right?
Kyle
Shanahan did not care for it. So healthy scratch, right? But hey, that never goes wrong for a team, right? So Mostert lasted all of 2 carries before being declared.
Carries. I mean, it was 2 carries for like 20 yards.
2 carries for 20 yards. Yeah, pretty good number.
And then a knee.
Then out for the remainder of the game, right? So it looks like Detroit is a defense, just as a little note, write that down. Detroit is a defense that is great for opposing running backs. So if you got them, start them, right? Start your running backs against Detroit. So who's going to fill in for Mostert right now? Jermichael Hasty or Elijah Mitchell? He might be going by Eli Mitchell on your waiver wire, so just pay attention to that. Of course, it's the guy you've never heard of, or unless like you've been in Dynasty Fantasy Football, but maybe you know Eli Mitchell. But he might be there for you right now. 8% roster. That's a pretty good low number. He went for 19 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown, right? That's a pretty solid day. He got vultured by Jermichael Hasty on a TD as well. So he could have had a potentially higher value day for the 8% of people who had him, and then maybe like the 1% who actually started him, right?
8% and then the 1% of the 8%.
Of the 8%. Yeah. that his brother or his dad started him, right?
Only family members.
Yeah, only family members. He didn't get involved in the passing game at all, but really Hasty didn't either. Other than one catch Hasty had for 15 yards, there was no passing going to the running backs, which is extremely surprising considering it is a Shanahan offense. So that is very unusual. I don't expect that to continue forward. I don't really know what the split's going to be there. It's kind of hard to really judge it at this point. He was the clear leader in the backfield, though. That is very obvious. And based on Shanahan's latest comments on Sermon, Mitchell should be the guy if Mostert misses more time, right? I mean,
it definitely. I think he's putting him on the IR. I think it's going to be an up to 8 week off for Raheem Mostert. So yeah.
Well, but based on the comments on Sermon too, it looks like it's going to go to Eli Mitchell. I think here, if we get an early confirmation, like we were talking about, of Mostert being on an extended period of time out, be prepared to pay up for Mitchell. Right? I think that you do. I think it's a high value running back offense. He may not be exactly what you're looking for, but there's not a whole lot of vet value on the street right now. So that's where I think they're going to have to just kind of bear down and figure out what they're going to do. And I think it's him. They liked him. They did a healthy scratch on Sermon. So why not? I think he's the top ad at running back this week. And if Mostert's out, if he's confirmed out, and I think that he's the top ad maybe overall. It's possible. I think there's a couple other guys I like, but yeah. All right. So wide receiver, what you got?
I have oh my gosh, I can't even talk right now. Tim Patrick, 2% rostered on the Denver Broncos. So this has to do with the fact that Jerry Jeudy is out with a high ankle sprain. That is confirmed. Yep. Those are usually 8 weeks, isn't it, Kyle? Usually
it's anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. It depends on the grade, the severity. I mean, a high ankle sprain it can kind of be like mimic a broken bone at its severity, like at its most severe.
That's the thing. It's kind of misleading at times whenever you talk about a high ankle sprain, because it could be an actual broken bone in there as well. But I mean, that kind of clears the path.
Well, I mean, the tendon starts to separate from the shin a little bit is what ends up happening. And when it does that is like essentially a broken bone, because you can't, like, at a certain point, it's not tendon and it's not bone, or it's one or the other, you know? So
But with that injury, it kind of has a path for Tim Patrick to lead his team in targets. So Tim has flashed multiple times last year and kind of in the past. He's been with the team now for 4 to 5 years, I think it is. But and it is evident after his performance in week 1 that Courtland Sutton is not quite ready to take back those wide receiver 1 duties yet, coming off that torn ACL. He's not quite back. It could be a great scenario where you pick up Patrick, play him for a few weeks, and then you sell high before maybe Jeudy comes back from his injury, and then maybe before Sutton gets his form back. So it could be a great ad, and then play the heck out of him and see if you can go ahead and sell high. But do look for KJ Hamler as another teammate to get involved a bit more, as all of Judy's work will not go to Tim and Tim alone. So I do foresee Hamler getting an uptick in opportunities, but it looks like Tim Patrick already got quite a few of them in week 1. I think he's going to get just a little bit more. He could be the number 1 pass option. Yep.
All right, I got a name for you. Similar. Been around for a little while. It's Christian Kirk, 13% roster. He's out in Arizona. He looks good. He looked like he might be finally stepping up, actually. He went 5 for 5 for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, touchdowns are going to be a high variance issue for you, so be careful there. But 70 yards is pretty promising. 5 for 5 is even more promising right there, because that's kind of been the knock on him, is just that he has in the past gotten volume when there weren't as big of names out there, and he's just not been able to convert it. So I would be careful. There are a ton of mouths to feed in Arizona, and he was probably just the beneficiary of getting lost in the defense a little bit. And hey, that's the nature of how touchdowns are going to happen a lot of times. So, in a guy who's running as the wide receiver 2, maybe even the slot wide receiver, pulling down a lot of touchdowns, that's high variance. So I would be careful there. However, he draws Minnesota in week 2, and their secondary did not do enough to stymie the Bengals in week 1. So go for it. Go for it. Christian Kirk could have a pretty good day. I would imagine that DeAndre Hopkins, future Hall of Famer DeAndre Hopkins, will also have a very good day. And so if you just need a 1 week fill in, or you're having some trouble looking for maybe you're trying to catch a wide receiver 3 on your roster somehow, this is a guy who's available. He's available in a lot of leagues. I don't think he'll be on our list next week, not necessarily because of matchups or anything like that, but I think he's going to be over 60% owned. You don't score 2 touchdowns in 1 week off of 5 out of 5 catches, and just get left on the waiver wire, right? So we're likely to see AJ Green and some of the other pass catchers get a little more work in week 2, obviously, but Christian Kirk might be establishing himself as the overall wide receiver 2 in this offense, which is a solid grab, a solid value. They're going to run a whole lot of volume out there. This wide receiver 2 could be a very valuable one here. So,
absolutely, man. All right. Well, we decided to have a third wide receiver on the waiver wire episode here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that one with Sterling Shepard. He's only owned in 39% of rosters out there. So Shepard, in my opinion, is the number 1 wide receiver on this roster. There are a lot of mouths to feed. That is something that is very obvious, but it feels like this is Danny Dimes security blanket. And I was spitting some gold during our start-sit episodes that we actually had some technical difficulties, because I said, keep an eye on the targets in this one for Sterling Shepard. And, well, that kind of rang true, because it's 9 targets, 7 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. So we may have some inconsistency in his weekly output because of the QB play, because of Daniel Jones. But targets, I believe, are going to stay kind of steady for him in that 6+ range. So, high-priced free agent Kenny Golladay is showing a little bit of rust so far after being hurt for most of the offseason. So, I mean, it's going to take him a little while to get into the swing of things. So keep an eye on that. We also have Kadarius Toney out there at wide receiver, and Darius Slayton. There are quite a few.
Slayton got hit pretty good, though. He got hit pretty good. He took a helmet right in the middle of his back. Yeah. I'd be a little wary with him. So
absolutely. But Shepard should provide some pretty good value for you, especially if you're in a PPR league. I do like Sterling Shepard. He's always, if he's on the field, he has performed. Yeah. It's just keeping him on the field, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. All right. So I have let's move on to tight end here, right? I'll take the first one, I suppose, I guess here. We're going to do 2 tight ends, and then we got 1 QB for you, actually. All right. Tight end. I've got Cole Kmet, 34% roster. He's on the Bears, had a solid day, but didn't find the end zone. So he might still be flying under the radar slightly, actually. He was super hyped last year through fantasy football Twitter and through the whole offseason until draft season finally kicked in, and he just kind of fell off the radar. Why? Because Jimmy Graham is scaring off a lot of fantasy managers, right? He just always seems to, don't be scared. Just don't be scared. Kmet outsnapped Graham 51-14. That's the number that gets me going. Yeah, Kmet's the guy. This is his tight end room. Jimmy Graham had a couple good catches, and they use him at high opportunity moments. And he tends to get open in those moments, but he doesn't get any yak of any kind for them. And so he is highly just TD focused, right? And that's great in tight end world, right? But I don't know. I want to see a highly athletic tight end like Cole Kmet get a very big opportunity to make some noise. And I think that he is an under the radar opportunity right now that people are looking at Hawkinson and blowing the horn like go, this guy is awesome, and they drafted him, got good value, and he's blowing up, right? I can see Kmet putting down a 2-touchdown day, hitting a bunch of yardage, and then just being gone.
Yeah.
So he is 34% rostered. That's every Bears fan and their uncle. So I would look for Kmet to do well with Dalton, but I think he does even better when Fields gets on the start, right? At some point.
Yeah.
Kmet's large, athletic tight end, capable of being a mid-range threat and a solid blocker, so he's going to be on the field a whole lot. Hence the 51 snaps to 14. His primary value will be in the goal-to-go situations, but that's the same scenario for Jimmy Graham. And as long as he's on this roster, you're going to have that hampering Kmet's upside for now, which keeps him cheap for you. So I wouldn't go and blow a whole lot of fab budget or a really great waiver wire priority on him, but I would consider trying to pick him up if I'm struggling to figure out what I'm going to do at tight end.
Yep.
So you got a tight end. You got a really interesting one here. This is under the radar, man. Under the radar.
This is under the radar. Maybe a kind of a deep kind of waiver wire.
Right now is winning.
Oh yeah.
And it might be something where you may not have to put any fab budget down, maybe $1, or maybe you don't have to put that waiver
$1 on 100, or like I'd
Yep.
say 5 on 1,000 if you're at 1,000.
Yep, absolutely. It's James O'Shaughnessy. Who? Yes, James O'Shaughnessy, tight end for
Jimmy
the
O.
Jags.
Jimmy O.
He
Jimmy
is-
O'Shaughnessy. It's Jimmy O'Shaughnessy.
O'Shaughnessy.
Jimmy
He's not even-
O'Shaughnessy.
We couldn't even get a round up on his roster. He's 0%. Couldn't even get a round up even if he was close to 1.
Yeah.
But he finished the 8 targets, Kyle. 6 catches and 48 yards. No touchdowns. But James ran 39 pass routes to the second tight end, Chris Manhert's 8 pass routes. But everybody is going to look at the total points, and Manhertz is the one that caught the touchdown.
Yeah, they're going to go and get him. They're going to go get him.
Yep.
And
but you're going to be the smart one.
Yep.
You're going to be the smart one and look at James O'Shaughnessy. It does seem like as of right now, James is the tight end one on this team, even though there are quite a few other meh kind of tight ends.
Yeah.
They did sign Jacob Hollister, former Seattle Seahawks. Can't remember exactly which team he was just playing for that was cut, but he didn't make the 53 on his most recent team. So that gives you an idea of his talent.
Could have
but
been
he was inactive
Arizona,
for week 1.
maybe.
I think you might be right. But Luke Farrell, a 5th-round rookie, was used very seldom in week 1, and we always say when it comes to rookie tight ends that we just avoid, especially as a 5th round. He's probably going to be on the special teams if he does actually make the dress. So in fantasy football, it is always hard to get any value out of the tight end position unless you have the top 3, the Kelseys, the Wallers, and George Kittle. So, and until Hollister and the rest of the tight ends get more work, I think O'Shaughnessy has some streamer capabilities.
Yeah.
But
Or if you drafted Kyle Pitts, you need to figure something out. Jeez.
But
we told
you said
people
this is
not to do that.
I mean, we did, but we did. It was one of those things where we talked about this before we came on, and Trevor Lawrence isn't going to throw the ball 51 times.
No,
that's just not.
They can't. It's not sustainable. It might happen again though in week 2, just because of who they're facing.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to run the ball at all.
But let's say he actually throws the ball 40 times, which in today's day and age, that's not a whole heck of a lot.
Yep.
And that still averages out to be about 6 targets for James O'Shaughnessy if he's able to continue that.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty darn good for a tight end in today's world if you don't have the big 3.
Yeah, and then, here's our last player. It's Jameis Winston, 44% rostered. Is this an overreaction? Is this the overreaction of the week at the QB position? Absolutely. Are you going to be afraid to pull a trigger on the waiver wire to get him? No, not at all. Go get this guy, right? This is the play of the season at this point. I think this is the only thing that beats out, in my mind, Elijah Mitchell as the top ad on the waiver wire. And that's because half of your league, if you're in a 12-man league or over, or you're in 2 QB league, he better be rostered 2 QBs already. But half of, I think he would have been, come on, the Saints QB, starting QB, come on. So look, he's sitting on the waiver wire in most leagues, 44%, right? It looks like he's in line to be a potential top 6 QB finish on the season. I mean, if he keeps on pace, he's going to throw for what? Like, what is that? 85 touchdowns? That's right.
Oh, is that all?
That's what he's on pace for. That's it. Maybe you took a late flyer on him if you forgot about QB during your draft, or you didn't get one of the QBs that you liked and you took a second one to see what happened. But if you didn't, he might still be on your wire. Check him. And if you've got a situation at QB or you're in 2 QB territory or superflex, this is a guy you should be adding if he's there. It's clear Sean Payton is able to coach Jameis to a better position than Bruce Arians ever did. Probably helped that he sat behind Brees for a season. To see how you truly play QB in the NFL, from prep to plan to execution to leading his teammates. There were no W's eaten on the sideline that I saw. If you feel insecure at QB this season, no crab legs. If you feel insecure at the QB position this season, or you think that you have a QB who is likely to finish closer to the QB 10 to QB 14 territory, then I think you should be willing to pay a bit for Winston. Expect to see Winston's roster percentage shoot to over 90% this week. So that should tell you this is a guy that I don't think you should be afraid to throw 50% down on your budget. I don't think you should be afraid to do it. This is one of those situations.
Are you worried about the low pass attempts, or is it just because they got so far ahead?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about how this operates. This offense wants to operate. If it's running, it still wants to use the running backs in the passing game, right? So I think that will come with time. That's going to come. But I don't know. I mean, so it is risky. 5 touchdowns, that's highly variable.
But 20 pass attempts, I think it was.
Tell me how he looked bad in this game. He threw an interception as he was getting clotheslined, right? So I'm not gonna blame him for that interception. And then neither did the referees, because they called it back on that clothesline, even though it was a clean hit. Yeah. So I think he's an ad. I think he's a great ad. So yeah.
It was actually something really quick, kind of funny. One of the downfield throw that he had to Deontay Harris. Drew Brees came on the commentary and was like, "Oh, so this is what the Saints have been missing the last few years." He said it himself. It was just like, "Oh,
that's great.
That's awesome."
Yeah.
I mean, that's awareness right there, everybody.
Yeah,
Drew Brees has always had the awareness.
Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat low-hanging fruit, but for him to do it, I mean,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
He did say, he's like, well, I said it before you guys could. He's looking over at the other two. I think it was Mike Tirico and Coach Dungy. So it's like, it's pretty funny.
Maybe he thought he was off mic at that moment.
Right?
Thought he wasn't hot. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our waiver wire ads for week 2 fantasy football 2021 season, right? So hopefully you guys are able to get a couple of these guys. Let us know if you've got any other suggestions down in the comments below, or if you have any questions about these guys or concerns that maybe we haven't brought up. We'll try to comment back to you. We do a pretty good job of responding to comments. I like to think that we do, at least. So if you got a question, drop it below. Hit us up on Twitter. Make sure you drop some start-sit questions down below as well if you've got some things you're evaluating, so that we can get those into our start-sit episodes, as well as our pregame show, right? All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.
Devo!